Hello, my name is Claudia Ledesma, and I'm here to showing you a very short lesson, a Spanish lesson, in the way I normally do these lessons, online lesson, right? First of all, I would like to explain you and tell you basically the reason why I have picked this topic, which is the future tense in Spanish. And the reason why is because most of the time students tend to think that the only way we can express plans in the future is by using the proper future tense, which means to conjugate verbs in future tense. What it is, like if I'm saying in English, for example, I will go to the supermarket tomorrow. This will go is the way you express, you conjugate the verb, right, in order to express this future action. But in Spanish, it's not just by how we can conjugate this verb in future tense. We can also use different structures, and this is the reason why I have picked this topic. Most of the time, well, the very first thing I'm doing is just to, it's like showing like how can you see the way you can see in my screen here. So I'm writing down the title of the topic, basically, of what we are going to cover in the lesson, and also the specific topics we are going to cover, right? Uh, in this case, as I said already, it's the future tense, and then what is written here is the uses of the future tense in Spanish, which means when and when and why I can use the future tense, and also conjugations. The next part, most of the time, as I said, I tend to tell my student what to expect of this particular lesson. So it's not because it's not just about grammar things, it's about the communication objectives, right? Communication goals. So this is what is written here. So also I detail, right, why, what are they going to cover in all the two communication goals. What is written here is to talk about plans in the future, talk about intentions in the future, and also hypothetic situation that can happen in the future. The third part is for me, which is quite important also, is just to put into a context. I have picked this particular picture here because it's, we do have some drawings so that we can have an idea of the situation, what was happening, what is happening in this picture, right? And also some very short sentences with with this particular tense, or well, with this particular, for example, in this case, with this particular verb already conjugate, right, in future tense, right? So it also helped me a bit because after reading, most of the time I ask to my student to read aloud for me these sentences, right? And also to make up um, an example, to make up another sentence, right, for themselves. So this gives me a hint in order to get to know if they already know how to conjugate verbs in this particular sentence, or maybe they don't know. So I realize that they don't know really. So I will know that I have to focus a bit more in the grammar part and how to conjugate verbs and do some more exercise probably about it, etc. And before going to the next step, I also ask him some question like because I really want them to get to talk about it, right? So I ask you this question. For example, what is written here is like, what are you planning for the rest of your life? This kind of question is a very open question, so that some of them they can already identify, okay, so it's not just about talking about plans that are going to have tomorrow or the day after tomorrow next year. It's like, for example, I can also use it for the rest of my life. So most of the time they very like this kind of question and they start talking about it. Afterwards is when I start with this information, right? And as you can see, the reason why we express ideas in future tense, we have 4 different uses of the future tense in Spanish. So in that moment is when they realize, okay, it's not just about plans in the future. It's also about how to do something like as an order, or talk about probabilities, right? Or how to express a surprise. So you are surprised about something. You get surprised about something, right? So, but in this particular very short video, we will focus just in this characteristic, the very first use of the future tense in Spanish. So they ask him to read aloud for me again, and I also asked them to make up some similar sentence of what they have seen here, written here. If they already have questions regarding to the difference of these 4 uses, in Spanish, every single question they ask, I do a pause, right? And I explain in them, okay? And if it's a very, or if it's a particular question where I know that I need to get deeper, on the explanation, I will probably give you, obviously I will answer and I will explain you that at the end of the lesson or next lesson, I definitely clarify every single that about it. Yeah. After that is come the part with this particular graphic here, when I was saying at the very beginning that in Spanish we have different structure in order to express this future tense. So again, I explain in this particular structure. I ask them to read aloud for me. Most of the time, they do know, because if you get to this point of grammar, Spanish grammar, it means you already have covered all the present tense, all the different 4 past tenses in Spanish. So you're already you are able to express yourself in Spanish pretty well. So they start linking ideas. So it's not difficult, this part, right? Afterwards, it comes the conjugation. Most of the time, they are very keen on get to know how is the conjugation. So I'm telling you that as a regular verb, this is the conjugation for regular verbs. So they already know regular verbs, how they work for sure in different tenses. And so I'm just linking the idea that these are regular verbs, the 3 division of regular verb endings with are ending in r, n, and ir, so they can see here also, because we do have different colors, so it's easier in order to remember how to apply this ending conjugation. Afterwards, irregular conjugation, right? And I also, it's important for them because they do know that in Spanish, for example, we do have many different irregular verbs, right? But in Spanish, and this is something that most of the time I'm doing, I'm just saying like in Spanish, at least in future tense, we only have these 12 irregular verbs. So they get happy. So after making myself sure that they know every single meaning of these 12 verbs, the meaning of these 12 verbs, so then I explain you how can we build this irregular conjugation, and there we have, right? So I explain you this is the infinitive form of the verb, which is el verbo Tener in English is to have, but because it's an irregular verb, they do have to just remove the last part and add a dr, and then just apply the normal regular conjugation they do know from the regular verbs, right? Uh, so I have this one as an examples, and then I ask them to pick any of the previous one and conjugate them as they can see here, right? So in that way, I make sure that they do understand. And then when it comes the practice, right? Most of the time, and depending if it's just one-to-one, or they can work in pairs. So I give you, for example, this kind of, first of all, just in order to them to understand the difference of different the difference of how can I use the future tense is by do I just to conjugate the verb, or I can use the very first form I show you, which is this I'm going to instead of I will, right? So most of the time I'm giving them a bit more a written practice. So for example, yeah, like this one, for example, or and afterward, definitely start with the communication practice, right? So they do have this table here with different questions, right? Obviously, talking about the future. So if it's a one-to-one, I ask them, I can, for example, pick one of this one and ask to him or to her, or and then they pick one of these one and ask me. So it depends, as I said, the methodology also depends of the how many students I do have in my lessons. So this is a very, very short explanation. I hope you can more or less have an idea of how I do prepare and do my online lesson. Thank you.